Revealed, store manager's shocking act exposes incredible truth about the hidden billionaire owner. Sarah bustled about the grocery store, her heart heavy with the weight of long hours and even longer nights. Every cereal box she stacked, every loaf of bread she arranged on the shelf, was a step towards providing for her two young children. As a single mother, she was relentless in her pursuit to balance motherhood and the demands of managing the small-town grocery. Behind her smile lay fatigue, but she never complained. After all, each smile worth fighting for belonged to her children. One late afternoon, while unpacking boxes in the back room, Sarah's fingers brushed against something unexpected, a dusty old ledger tucked behind the shelves. Curiosity piqued, she pulled it out, flipping through the yellowed pages. As she scanned the entries, her heart raced. The numbers were staggering, revealing payments for community programs and scholarships. Mr. Hawthorne, the store owner, was a quiet man, often viewed as a billionaire recluse. Was it possible that behind his humble exterior lay a man committed to changing lives? Future potential flooded her mind. Her son needed a way to rise above the economic struggles that clouded their town. Attending a prestigious school could be his ticket, but the reality was a tangled web of classism and bias. How could she navigate this? And yet, Mr. Hawthorne seemed to hold the keys. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to confront Mr. Hawthorne, Sarah found herself in his office the next morning, a knot twisting in her stomach. The office was lined with books, the scent of aged paper filling the air. When she finally blurted out what she had discovered, his expression shifted. They shared stories of struggle, the pain of familial estrangement and unfulfilled hopes. As they spoke, an invisible bond began to form, like a gentle thread bridging their disparate worlds. However, as tension hung in the air, the reality still loomed. Her son's chance at a new life weighed heavy on her heart. Would his opportunities come at the cost of making enemies in their community? As they prepared for a town hall meeting, Sarah felt a tug of resolve inside her. She needed to expose the hidden truths of Mr. Hawthorne's generosity. Together, they could shine a light on the dark corners of inequality that plagued their town. That evening, the town hall stood full, murmurs swirling as Sarah took a breath, prepared to share their revelation. With every emotion surging within her, she could sense the weight of everyone's eyes, the expectations mounting. What would happen when she unveiled the truth? Would acceptance flourish or rejection take root? As she opened her mouth, words hanging on the tip of her tongue, the crowd's reaction began to ripple like a wave of uncertainty, leaving Sarah suspended in the balance. As Sarah stood there, the murmurs quieted to a tense hush. Faces turned to her, some curious, others skeptical. It felt as if the very air hung heavy with anticipation, waiting to be shattered by her next words. The dim light of the hall flickered slightly, and Sarah's heartbeat quickened, striking a rhythm of determination. Mr. Hawthorne isn't just a store owner, she finally managed, her voice steadying, he's a man who cares deeply for our community. She caught the eye of Mrs. Jenkins, a lifelong resident known for her sharp tongue. Would she embrace this revelation or scramble to discard it? Sarah felt her stomach twist, unsure of how the crowd would respond. But what lay behind her fear was a surge of hope, the possibility of igniting a change that could uplift her children and their friends. The records I found show he has funded scholarships and community programs, things we could only dream of. She took a breath, trying to weave her narrative with passion and sincerity. This isn't just about us. This is about what we can achieve together if we can acknowledge our flaws and strive for a better future. Some in the crowd exchanged looks. The skepticism was palpable. The mayor, an elder man with a furrowed brow, crossed his arms, clearly unsure where this was going. But just as doubt began to cloud her momentum, Sarah caught the gaze of a young mother in the back, her eyes glistening with understanding. In that moment, Sarah felt a rush of solidarity that spurred her on. I know many of you have worked hard to make this town what it is. But we can do more. We have the opportunity to open doors for our children. Mr. Hawthorne represents a chance we can't afford to ignore. Her voice crescendoed, weaving through the room, pulling at the hearts of those who dared to listen. As she spoke, she saw heads slowly nodding. It was a small victory but significant. Sarah pressed on, imagine a town where our children can dream bigger. They deserve to know that they can go to any school they choose, without the chains of poverty holding them back. Is it worth the risk? Shouted someone from the crowd, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. What if he only does this to clear his own conscience? The question hit hard, sending the crowd into a hush filled with uncertainty. Sarah had anticipated this. It was a valid point, a reflection of the deep-seated mistrust that had settled into their community. She took a shaky breath, feeling the weight of her own doubts creeping back in. But isn't that how change often begins? She replied, surprised at the strength in her own voice. With a risk, with uncertainty. If we rally together, we can hold him accountable. We can ensure that his generosity doesn't just shine on him but lights our path forward. We owe it to our kids to at least see where this could lead. A ripple of murmurs rose around the room again, excitement mixing with skepticism, hope threading through the air like an electric charge. It was a push in the right direction, and Sarah could feel the atmosphere shifting. The mayor leaned forward, eyes piercing into her. And you think we should all support this based on a few numbers? His skepticism loomed heavy, yet the tension in the room suggested a crack was forming in the wall of doubt. Just then, the doors swung open, and Mr. Hawthorne walked in, quietly resolute as he immediately drew the attention of the room. Sarah's heart thudded hard, mirroring the escalating energy. What would he say? With every eye now fixed on him, Sarah felt the stakes rise. Would his presence bring clarity or chaos? Did she gamble too much? Before she could think of her next move, Mr. Hawthorne stepped forward, his expression a blend of determination and vulnerability, ready to change the course of their small town forever. The moment of truth pulsed in the air. What revelations would emerge, and how would the community respond? Would Sarah's hopes of unity and change finally find their footing, or would they shatter like glass? Mr. Hawthorne scanned the crowd, taking in the tense faces before him. He seemed to draw strength from the silence. There was an air of expectation, a collective breath held tight, waiting for him to release it. Thank you, Sarah, he began, his voice steady yet warm. For speaking up. For believing in a vision that many have overlooked. The sincerity in his tone cut through the tension, softening hardened hearts, even if just a bit. His eyes, bright with conviction, flicked around the room. I didn't intend to keep my efforts a secret. I thought my actions spoke for themselves, but I see now that actions need voices, too. I want you all to know I care about this town and each one of you. This is my home, just like it's yours. A faint gasp interrupted the murmurs. It surprised even the young mother in the back who had felt a surge of solidarity in Sarah's words. A few people exchanged nervous glances, but there was also a glimmer of something hopeful. Maybe Mr. Hawthorne wasn't the enemy after all. I'm not a billionaire, but I understand the power of opportunity. Everyone deserves a shot to chase their dreams, he continued, his voice growing stronger. I funded scholarships not for glory, but because I remember what it's like to struggle. My parents worked 2 jobs each just to put food on our table. I want to pave a way for the young dreamers in this town, like Sarah's children. A mix of emotions washed over the crowd: curiosity, skepticism, and the faint stirrings of change. Mr. Hawthorne looked earnest, and somehow, it felt contagious. We all make mistakes and harbor prejudices, he said, making direct eye contact with a few people. But let us not create barriers where we can build bridges instead. Yeah. A voice called out from the back. What do you really get out of this? A tax break? A pat on the back? The challenge hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. Mr. Hawthorne held his ground. If you're asking what I gain a community that thrives. There's no pride in a vacant store or a stagnant town. Everyone is worth something, and I want to invest in that worth. The crowd murmured again, but this time more thoughtfully. Faces softened, and for the first time, people seemed willing to listen. Sarah stepped forward, emboldened. This isn't just about Mr. Hawthorne's intentions. It's about us as a community. Can we allow ourselves to believe that there's a chance here, one worth exploring together? Infused by her words, a spontaneous outburst of agreement began to ripple through the crowd. Heads nodded vigorously, some even clapping softly. It wasn't unanimous yet, but the tide was beginning to turn. Perhaps we could form a committee, Sarah suggested, excitement bubbling in her chest. Together, monitoring how those funds are used. Make sure we are involved every step of the way. The mayor cleared his throat, still wary. But what if things go awry? What if this doesn't work? Mrs. Jenkins mustered enough courage to speak up. Then we hold him accountable. But we should give it a chance, shouldn't we? If anything, it might show our kids that the world isn't as bleak as they think. Hope began shimmering in the air, shy yet undeniable, like the first light of dawn pushing through the darkness. Mr. Hawthorne smiled, a genuine connection sparking in his gaze. Yes, he said firmly. Let's take that chance together. As agreement started to simmer around the room, Sarah felt the thrill of change, raw and electric. It was happening. They were moving forward, together, but just as relief began to settle in, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, snapping everyone back to reality. The noise reverberated, startling people from their hopeful thoughts. What was it? What next hurdle awaited them? The crowd turned in unison, hearts pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation, uncertainty creeping back like an unwelcome shadow. The tension in the room thickened as the crowd turned to see what had caused the disruption. A large display of pamphlets and flyers had toppled over, revealing the store manager, Mr. Clancy, hastily trying to gather the scattered papers. His face flushed with embarrassment, but it was clear there was more to his antics than mere clumsiness. Sorry about that. He called out, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. People stared at him, hunger for answers gnawing at their curiosity. Mr. Clancy had always kept to himself, so his attempt at creating a spectacle felt out of character. Mr. Hawthorne stepped down from the podium, his expression shifting from anticipation to concern. Are you all right, Mr. Clancy? Yes, just a minor accident. Clancy responded, but his eyes darted nervously around the room, as if searching for something more to say, something to justify this moment. Then why don't you join us back here? Mr. Hawthorne suggested, extending a hand. We're all in this together, right? As Clancy hesitated, shadows danced across his face. Finally, he took a deep breath and approached the front of the room, much to everyone's surprise. The crowd murmured, eyeing the store manager. This was unexpected. What's really going on? Someone shouted from the back, and the heaviness of those words cut through the lingering chaos. Clancy's hands trembled slightly as he faced the crowd. You deserve to hear the truth, he began, voice shaky though the conviction behind it was undeniable. A silence fell, thick and heavy, wrapping around them all. You all know me as the manager of this store, but what you don't know is I've been in contact with Mr. Hawthorne for many months now. Gasps erupted, and a few people exchanged doubtful looks. What do you mean? Someone challenged, disbelief thick in their tone. Clancy swallowed hard, summoning courage. I wanted to keep it quiet to protect you all from what I knew. But now, with everything changing, I see I can't hide it anymore. Mr. Hawthorne is not just some rich guy trying to throw his weight around. He is trying to help us come back from the brink. The crowd buzzed with questions. Why didn't you tell us sooner? One woman asked, her voice tinged with frustration. I was afraid, Clancy admitted, his eyes meeting several in the crowd. I thought the news would only cause chaos. A few weeks ago, I found something while cleaning out old inventory. Hidden donations, money earmarked for this community. Money Mr. Hawthorne had funneled through the store without anyone knowing. A stunned silence blanketed the room. People leaned in, drawn to Clancy's revelation. Why would he do that? Someone finally asked. It's simple, Clancy replied, he believes in this town. He has investments lined up, but he wanted our voices to be heard first. I didn't understand it until now. We're all afraid of what a new direction could mean, but he's giving us a chance we won't find anywhere else. Mr. Hawthorne stepped forward again, taking over. I didn't mean to hide the truth. I wanted to build trust, but trust begins with transparency. The mood in the room shifted once more. This news breathed a new energy, a cautious excitement flickering in the air. Clancy's admission had unveiled an unexpected side of their benefactor. Tension hung like fog, but beneath it was the potential for hope. What if we do this? Sarah called out, her voice gaining momentum. What if we join forces and look at this as a community partnership? What if we meet him halfway? The room lit up with murmured agreements, a sense of camaraderie mingling with disbelief. The possibility felt tangible. As they began to plan their next move, the atmosphere crackled with renewed purpose. Clarity might not have arrived yet, but they were no longer standing still. They were ready to take the next step, and just then, the lights flickered ominously, plunging them briefly into darkness. Confusion swept over the crowd. Was this a simple power outage or something more? What hidden truths might still lay in the shadows waiting to be uncovered? A hush swept through the room, the low hum of anxiety pulsing as shadows enveloped the crowd. Heartbeats quickened, unsure if they should stay put or flee. The flickering lights were disorienting, painting ghostly silhouettes against the walls. After what felt like an eternity, the emergency lights kicked on, casting an eerie glow over the faces of the crowd. They were wide-eyed, searching for answers to their sudden isolation. Mr. Hawthorne and Mr. Clancy stood at the front, caught between confusion and resolve. Stay calm. Hawthorne's commanding voice sliced through the rising panic. We just need a moment. Clancy looked over at him, his own worry mirrored in Mr. Hawthorne's eyes. What if it's not just a power outage? Clancy whispered, swallowing hard. What if someone's trying to silence us? But before Hawthorne could respond, Sarah stepped forward, her presence solid and determined. Let us not jump to conclusions. We can handle whatever's happening. We've been through worse, right? We're in this together. Her voice echoed with a mix of fear and fierce loyalty, and the crowd gradually turned toward her, a flicker of hope igniting. As she spoke, a low rumble sounded from outside, growing louder until it drowned out her words. It was the unmistakable sound of machinery. Confusion turned to fear as they pieced together the unsettling puzzle of the evening. More than just a power outage, it was evidence of something lurking beyond the walls of the store. Do you guys hear that? One man gasped, clenching his jaw. What is going on? But before anyone could respond, the front doors burst open, flooding the dim space with light. A group of men clad in dark clothing stormed in, eyes scanning the crowd with unsettling intent. Everyone stay where you are. One of them shouted, raising his hand and pointing toward Hawthorne. Tension pulsed like electricity in the air. Hawthorne took an involuntary step back, the bravado draining from him. What do you want? He demanded, a mix of strength and fear lining his voice. Mr. Hawthorne, you should know better than to meddle in business that doesn't concern you. The leader's voice dripped with a cold, predatory edge, gasps erupted as the crowd recoiled, whispers ripping through the room. Clancy's face paled, and he unintentionally stepped in front of Hawthorne, as if to protect him. Each soul in the store was suddenly confronted with the gravity of their situation. Who are you? Sarah shouted, her voice trembling but defiant. She stepped closer, fueling her anger with courage. We're just trying to save our town. We won't back down. The intruder laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the cavernous space. Your town. You really think this is about your town? You know nothing of what's at stake. But we're here to end this before it goes too far. Panic rippled through the crowd, hope was suddenly frayed, hanging by a thread. Clancy and Hawthorne exchanged glances, unsure of their next move. The storm was brewing outside, and time was ticking away. Look! Clancy exclaimed, channeling his rising courage. We deserve a chance. We're not backing down. Whatever it is you think is happening, it ends here. The group of men exchanged glances, surprise registering on their faces. A challenge? In the heart of their own work. For a moment, the tension hung heavy, and a sense of unity surged through the onlookers. Then, just as quickly as hope flickered to life, Hawthorne's phone buzzed an urgent warning. We need to get out of here. He shouted, looking at the door unnervingly. Whatever this is, it's bigger than we thought. As chaos erupted, and people grabbed for one another, Clancy's eyes glimmered with urgency. We have to work together, now more than ever. But would that be enough? In that moment, the door slammed shut, plunging them deeper into uncertainty. What lay beyond the walls, and how far were they willing to go to protect everything they had fought for? The stakes had never been higher, and the real battle was just beginning. Clancy's heart raced, the sound of his pulse drumming in his ears as the door clicked shut behind them. Panic shifted to disbelief as he looked at the men who had invaded their sanctuary. The air was thick with a mix of fear and resentment. He caught Sarah's gaze across the chaos, her expression resolute yet frightened. Listen up! Sneered the intruder, pushing through the cluster of frightened faces. You all have a choice to make. Stay here and be collateral damage or get out while you can. He leaned forward, his men flanking him like wolves ready to pounce on any show of weakness. What are you talking about? Hawthorne croaked, summoning whatever courage he had left. You think we're just going to roll over? A slight smirk crossed the leader's lips. I don't think. I know. You don't really understand your place in this world, do you? Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder rumbled outside, shaking the very foundations of the store. Some of the onlookers jumped, and the tension became palpable, the air filled with a mix of scent sweat, fear, and something metallic. Hey, we need to find a way out now. Clancy urged, looking around at the panicking crowd. We can't just give up. Shut up! Snapped the leader as he walked closer, his eyes narrowing. You don't get to tell us what to do. You think your little stand makes a difference? This is bigger than any of you. The crowd collectively held its breath, the severity of the threat hitting home hard. A woman, clutching her young daughter, stepped forward. Why are you doing this? We're just people trying to live our lives. The leader paused, conflicted by the unexpected challenge. You're getting in the way of things beyond your comprehension, lady. Sarah took a bold step forward, her back straight, facing the men with unyielding resolve. Then let us in on what is going on. We deserve to know. If you think you can intimidate us, you're wrong. Clancy's heart swelled with admiration for Sarah. She was right, they had a right to know, to fight back. The fear in the room was like a thick fog, but Sarah was the light breaking through. Enough! The intruder bellowed, shaking his head. Your leader has made many mistakes, and it's time to correct them. You can't save your town from what's coming. It's already too late. A murmur rippled through the crowd, confusion mixing with a swelling anger. What if we band together? One man shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. What if we don't let fear decide our fate? Are you going to stand there and let these men dictate our lives? Clancy felt the spark of bravery in the room, courage coursing like wildfire. He locked eyes with Hawthorne, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. They needed to rally everyone. Listen! Clancy called out, his voice steady. We've faced much worse before. If we stand together, we can fight. We are stronger as one. But the words hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. Would they truly unite against this threat, or would fear fracture them into submission? The leader of the men laughed again, but there was something nervous in his tone this time. You think that's enough? We'll see how long you last when everything you know starts crumbling. Just then, the power surged back on, flooding the store with blinding light, revealing the worried faces of the onlookers. The intruders seemed startled, their confident facade slipping for just a moment. Clancy's heart raced again as he scanned the room. This could be the moment. In their eyes, he saw a mix of hope and fear, an undeniable chance to turn the tide. We need to push back. We can't let them control our fate. The door rattled suddenly. Whispers of a plan formed quietly, each person acknowledging the storm they faced together, the desire to reclaim their lives igniting like sparks on dry timber. But just as unity flourished, the thud of a heavy object echoed near the door, increasing the feeling of dread. Something was coming for them, and Clancy knew deep down that time was running out. What were those men hiding behind their twisted intentions? What would it take to uncover the truth? The moment hung like a noose, and decisions made now could seal their fate. The door splintered as something heavy collided against it, sending splinters flying and a sense of urgency cascading through the group. Clancy's heart skipped a beat as he looked around, reading the fear etched on the faces surrounding him. Wide eyes darted to the door, uncertainty dancing in the air. Get back! The leader of the intruders yelled, grabbing one of his men and pushing him forward towards the door. The shift of power confused Clancy. Were they still in control, or were they starting to unravel? What do we do? Someone whispered frantically. Clancy felt a rush of annoyance. He turned to the speaker, fear wrestling with determination within him. We fight. We stand together. Stay close. The words spilled out, firm and steady, enough to bolster the energy in the room. Hawthorne stepped up beside him, getting into a fighting stance. If they think they can take our lives, they don't know what they're messing with. We aren't afraid. Suddenly, the door burst open with a crash, and an explosion of clenched fists and scuffling feet burst into the shop. An unexpected figure emerged, a man they all recognized. It was Joe, the store manager. In one swift motion, he raised a steel baseball bat over his shoulder, eyes blazing with an intense conviction. Get behind me! He shouted, glancing between the intruders and the crowd. We aren't letting them do this. This ends now. Gasps erupted, mingling with a new energy in the air. Clancy watched, stunned. Could Joe really rally everyone? The fear was palpable, yet something shifted, a current of courage stirring among them. The leader narrowed his eyes, clearly taken aback. You're just a nobody in this town, he hissed. You're making a huge mistake. Joe's grip tightened on the bat. The only mistake was thinking you could come in here and bully us. The defiance in his voice sparked a flame of unity, and Clancy felt that flame flicker to life within him too. Let them know who we really are. Clancy shouted, stepping closer to Joe, feeling the urge to act. We're more than just people in fear. We're a community. Hawthorne nodded, taking up a stance next to Clancy. Together, we've weathered storms before, and we can do it again. Let us show them we're not afraid. The crowd visibly swelled with resolve, a wave of voices rising to confront the intruders. We won't back down. We won't stay silent. The leader took a step back, clearly flustered, and in that moment of hesitation, a collective roar erupted from the patrons. They surged forward, pushing against the fear, the uncertainty, and the need to fight back against the threat. The noise was overwhelming, yet there was something powerful about it, a sense of kinship. As chaos erupted, clashing bodies and shouted threats filled the small store. Clancy caught sight of Sarah, her face proud but tense. He felt her strength, her spirit grounded in the fight. Each heartbeat connected them, weaving them into the fabric of resistance, yet, amidst the clamor, Clancy couldn't shake the hollowness within. What lay at the heart of this conflict? Just as clarity began to slip through their fingers, he felt a sudden jolt of realization. Beneath the tension of this moment, what if the real battle was the truth? What if they were all part of something larger, something that transcended this immediate threat? And then he heard it, a strange, rhythmic sound pulsing through the chaotic noise. Clancy's eyes widened as he turned to the source of the sound, realizing too late it was coming from the basement. "What is that?" Sarah gasped, fear creeping back. Clancy's heart raced again, ripping back to desperate thoughts. What could be lurking below? What secrets were buried beneath their feet, waiting to surface? He felt the collective energy shift, every person in the room keenly aware that this was just the beginning. The truth was waiting, and they were about to uncover something that would redefine what they knew about their town, their lives, and the storm they faced. "Someone has to check it out," Clancy shouted over the chaos, urgency spurring him on. But would anyone be brave enough to answer the call? Clancy scanned the room, his heart thumping hard against his ribs. It felt like a drum, beating a warning that echoed in the chaos swirling around him. The faces of his friends, their features twisted with uncertainty, were a stark contrast to the confident defiance Joe radiated. A heavy silence fell momentarily, as everyone turned to Joe, waiting for his command. It was the kind of tension that wrapped around your throat tight, squeezing out every last breath. Joe, bat in hand, seemed to weigh his options. "Listen up," he shouted, voice booming over the mix of anxiety and purpose. "If we're going to face whatever's coming, we need to be smart. I'll go." "What?" "No." Clancy couldn't help but blurt out. The thought of Joe going alone twisted his stomach. "We should go together. There could be more of them." But Joe's eyes were steady, locking onto Clancy's with a fierce intensity. "We don't need to spread ourselves thin. I know how to handle this," he said, almost pleadingly, yet with the air of someone who made up his mind. "I'll go down and figure out what that noise is. I need you to cover me up here. If things go south, things have already gone south, Joe." Clancy interrupted, panic rising. They needed a plan, and fast. "All right." Hawthorne stepped up, a thought clearly forming. "How about this? Joe, you head down to check it out. We'll provide distraction." Distraction? It felt like an insane idea, but something in Hawthorne's tone clutched at Clancy's gut, making him think. "What are we gonna do?" "To help. To provide backup if things turn bad. If we keep those thugs focused on us, Joe has a fighting chance." Joe's expression softened. "Just keep your heads down. Don't do anything reckless." Clancy weighed his options. Could he let Joe face whatever lurked below, alone? It terrified him to think of it, but if they waited, the noise might escalate. The last thing they needed was more confused enemies. "Fine," Clancy relented. "But you're not alone doing this." He glanced at Sarah, who had been watching, her face a reflection of equal parts determination and fear. "We stay together. The moment things get hot, we're going in." The tension returned, but now there was a pulse of purpose. The crowd whispered among themselves, some nodding in agreement, resolve building like a dam ready to burst. "All right, we ready?" Joe took a glance at the crowd, seeking strength in their eyes. "Let us do it." Clancy cheered, hoping to mask his own doubts with a brave voice. With that, Joe nodded, positioning himself near the basement door. There was a primal look on his face, a mix of fear and determination that made Clancy's stomach twist further. "On three, then. 1, 2, 3. Joe swung the door open, the hinges protesting as they revealed a dark, cold space below. A stale gust escaped, stirring memories of forgotten things. The rhythmic noise pulsed a little louder, reverberating against the walls. "Stay close," Clancy urged, positioning himself beside Joe, his heart hammering in tandem with the unseen beat. But just as they were about to step into the abyss, the shop's front windows shattered with a bone-rattling crash, raining glass and chaos into the room. In that deafening moment, Clancy's stomach dropped, his instincts screaming at him. They're coming in. He shouted, adrenaline igniting every nerve in his body. The group turned. A horde of intruders surged in, ready to take them on. Fear mingled with fury in the air, and Clancy was acutely aware of how quickly everything could spiral. But there was still that strange sound, echoing from the basement, pulling at him like an unanswered question. Go now. He shouted, fighting against the tide. Joe, you need to get down there. We'll hold them off. Hold them off. Joe's voice wavered, uncertainty creeping back, but Clancy's desperation fueled his determination. Trust us. Joe hesitated for a fraction longer before stepping into the shadows of the basement, vanishing from the light. The crowd was now a wild thrumming ball of chaos, half fighting and half pushing back against the rising tide of threats, with the chaos rising above. Clancy's pulse quickened, each second stretching painfully. What was waiting in that basement? And when would they find out the truth hidden beneath their feet? As the intruders advanced, Clancy squared his shoulders. Together. He shouted into the fray. No one fights alone. It was now or never. The shouts and crashes filled the air like thunder, and Clancy could barely process it all. His heart raced as fists flew, and chaos erupted around him. He felt the heat from the pile of bodies, the surge of adrenaline pushing him forward. This wasn't just a fight, it was a desperate bid for survival. He quickly eyed Sarah and Hawthorne, who stood close, their faces set with determination. We need to split their focus. Clancy shouted, charging forward, thrusting his shoulders into the mix. The first man he encountered was hulking and muscular, his fists swinging wildly. Get him, Clancy. Sarah called out, jumping to his side. Together, they tackled the intruder, sending him crashing into the wall. Clancy felt the sharp jab of exhilaration cut through his fear. A brief moment of victory amid the chaos, but the celebration was short-lived. More invaders came pouring through the shattered doorway, their faces masked and menacing. Clancy barely had time to draw in a breath before he was knocked to the ground, grappling with another assailant. The taste of fear mixed with adrenaline was sharp on his tongue. Just as he was trying to wrangle himself free, he caught sight of Hawthorne on the other side of the room, struggling against two men at once. Without thinking, Clancy pushed himself up and sprinted, his legs fueled by urgency. Help him! He yelled to Sarah, who quickly followed suit. As Clancy reached Hawthorne, he swung a fist at the nearest attacker, connecting with a satisfying thud. In that instant, it felt like the world froze. Just one single second where triumph filled his veins. But the reality of the fight snapped back as another enemy rushed toward him, shoving him aside like a ragdoll. Clancy stumbled back, his head spinning with disorientation. Breath came in harsh gasps. He had felt so much hope just a moment ago, and now it was slipping through his fingers. We can't go down like this. He shouted, gathering his wits. From the corner of his eye, he saw a flash of movement. Joe's silhouette emerged from the basement, bat raised high. Clancy! He hollered, urgency coloring his voice. What is going on? I heard the noise. There are too many of them. Clancy called back, fending off another punch aimed at his face. We need to push them back. Suddenly, a powerful crash rang through the shop. The sound resonated, echoing beyond the chaos. All eyes turned toward the source, a small, battered door at the front of the store, now ajar, flickering with the promise of something ominous. What was that? Sarah whispered, her brow knitted with concern. Clancy's heart dropped as an instinct bubbling beneath the surface began to rise. It felt like the noise wasn't just in the basement but was intertwining with the chaos, almost a call. Something's not right, we can't keep fighting like this. Joe stepped in closer, narrowing his eyes at the door. What's behind there, Clancy? What are they hiding? The invaders, sensing a shift in the atmosphere, momentarily faltered, glancing nervously at the door. Clancy felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Did they risk everything, fight their way through the chaos and approach the door, or stick to the battle at hand? Let us find out. Clancy roared, his voice cutting through the noise, igniting that same fierce determination surfacing in the group. Together. We all need to trust each other. And with that rallying cry echoing in his mind, they moved toward the door, leaving behind the fighting for a moment. But as Clancy reached for the handle, the tension in the room changed again. Silence loomed, heavy and portentous, as all eyes fell on the door, waiting to reveal whatever lay hidden behind it. A low, ominous hum began to ripple through the shop once more, pulling Clancy deeper into its mystery. What if it was worse than they ever imagined? As the group stood on the brink of discovery, Clancy's heart thudded with both dread and excitement. This was just the beginning of something far greater than a simple brawl. They were about to uncover a truth that could change everything. What would they find on the other side? The anticipation built as they braced for the unknown. The door creaked open slowly, and a thick wave of musty air poured out, laced with unsettling vibrations. Clancy stepped forward, heart racing, his senses heightened by the fear that clung in the atmosphere like a damp shroud. "Stay close!" he shouted back to the crowd. They moved as one, a living, pulsing entity driven by curiosity and adrenaline. Behind them, the sounds of struggle only softened momentarily, as the tide of bodies continued to clash in the chaotic store. The dim glow from the emergency lights barely illuminated the stairway leading into the basement, and together they peered into the unknown. "Whatever's down there, it's part of this," Joe said, determination etched across his face. "We need to know what we're up against." The rhythmic noise, now louder and more dissonant, pulled at their instincts. It felt like a drum made from despair, demanding attention, every beat a reminder of the struggle that had led them here. Clancy took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stair. Cautiously, they descended, each step echoing in the hollow space. The noise grew more frantic, pulsating with a life of its own. And then, as they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a wide room cluttered with old crates and dusty machinery. In the center of the room stood what looked like a makeshift operation, a tangle of wires and devices bleeping erratically, scattered papers detailing plans, dreams, hopes that had been tossed aside. Clancy's stomach flipped. This was more than just hidden donations. This was the heart of a movement, forged in secrecy. "What is all of this?" Sarah gasped, taking in the surroundings. This is huge." "I think it's our way out," Clancy muttered, yet the reality hit him harder than expected. This wasn't just a chance to survive, this was an opportunity to reclaim something they had lost: a voice, a connection, a future. Suddenly, an idea ignited within him, and the rhythm of his heart quickened. "We can turn this against them," he blurted out, his words lighting the dim room. "If we work together, we can use this to leverage everything they think they've taken from us." "But how?" Joe asked, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. "By exposing it. By making it our strength." Clancy's mind raced now, 100 possibilities swirling. "We show the community that they can take our fear, but they can't take this. We'll reveal what's really at stake." The sound of chaos from above flickered at the edges of their concentration. Every moment counted, and Clancy felt urgency pressing on his veins. "We need to rally the community, inspire them to take back control. This isn't just about surviving a fight, it's about flourishing, together." "All right," Sarah said, throwing her shoulders back. "Let's get everyone down here." Just then, the heavy footsteps of the intruders began to echo down the stairs. Jittery anticipation charged the group, but instead of panic, there was resolve. Clancy turned to his friends, fear replaced with fierce determination. "We are not going to let them dictate our fate," he shouted, his voice unwavering. "This ends now." As the intruders stormed into the basement, shocked at the sight before them, Clancy stepped to the front, fire in his eyes. "You think you can silence us? You've mistaken fear for power." The intruders halted, confusion and uncertainty dancing in their harsh expressions. "Let us show them," Joe shouted, raising his bat high. The community surged behind him, shadows of their strength emerging from the edges as they stood united. The intruders exchanged glances, realizing too late that the tide had turned. The power of solidarity, the surprise of hidden resolve, pushed them back. Clancy shouted commands, rallying everyone to take positions, eyes bright with hope and courage. "We will share this truth. We will not back down." Clancy roared, and their voices swelled, echoing in defiance, drowning out the darkness. They charged forward, ready to face the threat together. In that moment, the power didn't rest on wealth or authority, it lay in unity, the kind that could change lives, dreams, everything they cared for. As the dust settled, the realization hit hard: they had done more than just confront fear, they had unveiled the truth beneath, and together, they would rise. And then, with a triumphant cheer, they emerged from the shadows of the basement into the light of their small town. They were stronger, transformed, and ready to reclaim their lives, brightened by the bonds forged in the face of adversity. The hidden truth was now weaponized, not just as individuals, but as a community, standing united. This was their moment. Now, the story may have come to a thrilling conclusion, but there's much more to come. You need to subscribe now to not miss our next exclusive stories that are guaranteed to inspire. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. We want to hear from you, and don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us build a community that stands strong.